We talk about testosterone all the time and taking different dosages of testosterone, right? We've seen things as low as maybe 50 or 75 milligrams a week of testosterone, but we've also seen things as high as like 300 milligrams of testosterone a week. And both of those are considered TRT doses, testosterone replacement therapy. Well, we have this study here in regards to testosterone dose response relationships in healthy young men that we're going to talk about, maybe get into a little bit of L-carnitine, catch up from the last episode, which we are currently on episode 51.
Nice.
Too much test podcast. TYL. How you doing? You want to say what's up and introduce the sponsors?
Absolutely. What's going on, guys? Test Your Levels here. Happy to be here on the Too Much Test podcast. We're sponsors here. We've got the Triggered brand. Go check them out. HC Gains is my brand. Don't go check them out. We're going to replace them with another company that I have coming out very soon that I think a lot of you guys will want to use. Pretty cool. But yeah, you can find us on YouTube. You can find all the links to various things that we work with or who we work with in the description. Check out Sam on all the socials. Yeah, so let's get into it. Let's talk about some testosterone. Yeah, let's do it.
Thank you for that. Hey, I want to just catch up real quick. How have you were starting? So you've been on MK677 and your shoulder, right? That was perpetually bothering you for 20 years. And you said that you were noticing a little bit of improvements. Actually, really quick before we get into that, if you guys enjoy the show, leave us a review. It's tremendously helpful. That's all I want to say about it really quick. We're going to get into some of the analytics at the end if you're interested in that. But tell us how the MK677 is going.
Yeah, MK677 is going good. I really like it. I've not had any side effects. I do feel like it's healing a little bit more. Like I feel, I did shoulders actually today and I could feel it. But I could feel it toward the end. It was after I did front raises when I could feel it. But it's getting better overall. And just a quick aside, my last YouTube video was on Cialis for like health. And it's like, the studies are really good on your health for your heart as a guy. But someone tagged me and wrote about Cialis being awesome for a pump. And so I was like, oh shit. I was like, I haven't done Cialis before the gym in a hot minute. So yesterday I did back and I took 10 milligrams before I went into the gym. And dude, my biceps were hitting. So it was too much of a pump, like to where I almost felt kind of sore, but yeah, anyway, going back to MK, big fan of it. I haven't noticed anything bad. So
let's dive into some of that research on episode 52 on Cialis, because I think that would be pretty interesting to talk about, because it's not only with the heart, there's other benefits to it, which I'm sure we could get into that one. Have you changed your dose? Have you changed like your protocol or what you're working on or anything?
You're talking about just overall?
Yeah.
No, same dosage. I think I'm doing 220 milligrams a test. The MK 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. The biggest change is I'm still on the semaglutide week 4, down to 203 pounds. So that's down 7 pounds in a month. And dude, I can actually kind of see, like, not the abs yet, but like I can see the indentation of where they'll be, you know what I'm saying? The side. So that's pretty cool. And then I switched up my diet about 2 weeks ago to carnivore. And dude, I'm carnivore. It's weird though, man. I made like a massive thing. Like I filled my entire crock pot up with pulled pork. And my wife's like, you're such a fucking idiot. Like I could barely even close the top to it. And I was like, listen, I don't care. I'm getting this shit one and done. I'm cooking both of these things at the same time. But I'm going to be honest, man, it feels kind of weird. Like, cause pulled pork's pretty fatty. And it just feels like I'm doing something wrong. Like I feel like I'm just eating like barbecue food, But then I was actually thinking today, I was like, you know what? If I was a fucking Eskimo and I was in the middle of the ice and shit, I would not feel like this is a bad thing to eat. This would be like one of the things that I would want to eat, to get as many calories in as possible, which is not what carnivore diet's really about. But you know what I'm saying?
But also like, you probably feel more satiated because protein takes longer to digest, fat takes longer to digest. And like, there was one thing, I think we may have even talked about it. Like, they did study and it was like whole food with like protein and eggs and shit, but also some other like whole foods in there and processed carbohydrates and other types of foods. They had it like ad libitum or whatever that word or that phrase is, where you could just eat as much as you would like to eat of these foods. And they had two groups of people, right? One eating the whole foods with, full proteins, and then the other eating like more processed carbohydrates that were available and other just processed foods. And what they found on average, the group that had like the processed foods or had access to the processed foods ate on average about 500 more calories. So like, wow. I think that like there's other benefits to that. Like I'll have a steak, I'll have butter, I'll have bacon and eggs. And then I feel like, 4 years ago, I would have thought that part of that would have been bad. But now I don't have that same belief system. And you feel me. Like I haven't eaten since this morning and it's 6 p.m. Right. Yeah. I haven't eaten since this morning, but I don't feel like bad. I don't feel like I'm, anything crazy. I just like, okay, that's 6 eggs, a steak and fucking bacon. Like I'm good. Right. Like you just feel good and you end up saving so much time. So when did you switch? I saw your post on Instagram. When did you switch and how are you feeling?
I think it's been about 2 weeks total. I feel good. I like the diet. I'm doing pretty solid with not eating really any carbs. I'm still doing protein shakes when I get back from the gym. I'm finishing off a thing of mixed nuts that I had. I've eaten a few things of cheese, little Baby Bells, just because in the middle of working, I walk out there and I'm like, hell yeah, I get some cheese in there. But overall, I've done really, really low carb. And I thought I was going to have I thought I was going to have less energy and it was going to be more of like a transition, but it really wasn't. It's really, so I'll do 3 eggs, full eggs in the morning, and then 5 pieces of bacon. I got like the Kirkland, the big like 50 pack of the pre-cooked bacon. And I was like, hell yeah. So that's breakfast. And that fills me up for a while. And then I'll typically snack on like some nuts and protein shake and a little bit of cheese throughout the day. And then I'll just eat one like massive bowl or 2 smaller bowls of pulled pork with some hot sauce. And I know this is anti-carnivore, but I put a little cilantro on it because it's fire.
So have you noticed anything mood wise or like in your taking your shit or your sleep or anything like that?
Not anything sleep wise. I've had a little trouble sleeping, honestly, recently, and it's happened before. And it doesn't have anything to do with carnivore diet, I don't believe. Gastrointestinal wise, I was actually telling my wife like 2 days ago, I was like, I feel like I'm farting less. Like I don't feel like I'm farting as much as I used to.
Yes.
I'm not the grossest person, but I'm known to be a little gaseous from time to time, but I notice it's been a lot less.
So literally, if you were around there's 7 kids in my family, right? So when you're around my family, because I'm not around my family very often now, it still lingers there. But there's the stereotype, right? Is that Sam farts a lot because I would always have a lot of. They thought it was because I always had a lot of protein. When in reality, what you're saying is 100% true. I used to fart a lot when I would do the 5 vegetables and 5 spices and herbs with every single meal. And now that I'm on carnivore, I don't even remember the last time I farted. I very, very rarely fart. Yeah. Because if you think about it, right? Like if you were to put, you might put like 87 or 89 in your car, right? Or maybe you're fancy, right? So you might put like 92 or whatever.
I wish. I just put 93 in all my cars.
So if you think about that as, or maybe a better analogy would be dirty oil, right? Like if you had dirty oil, it has like little particulates in it and little like granules of like shavings from like the block or something like that, metal that is going around your engine block. And that fucks it up, right? That degrades your engine substantially faster, which means that it's going to wear out faster. It's probably going to run at a hotter temperature. The viscosity of it is not going to be like what it was intended to be at the beginning, right? Because it's dirty and all this kind of stuff. So like when I think about that versus like having your 5 vegetables and 5 spices and herbs with every meal, because they're full of anti-nutrients, which is like the little particulates, the dirt, the metal bits in the oil analogy, that I was consuming every day, right? I'm consuming the dirt, I'm consuming the particulates, I'm consuming the little chips of metal every day. And I would be not only farting all the time, I would be bloated all the time. I feel like dog shit. Now I'm never bloated, and I don't even remember when I fart. Have you noticed the frequency of your shitting at all by any chance?
Seems to be honestly a little bit less. I don't know if that's what you experienced, but you know, I mean, sometimes, you know, I'm doing typically when I get back from the gym, I drink a little bit of extra coffee to try to get the system moving. And that's typically where I do my main one. And then sometimes I do 2 or 3 later on throughout the day. But now it seems like I'm doing 1 or possibly 2 at the most.
Bro, that's interesting because that's exactly like how mine used to be like 6 times a day, but now it's like maybe twice, every once in a while, maybe 3, but generally speaking, twice a day or something. But like going back to the plants and stuff like that, they're full of anti-nutrients, which first of all is bad for your gut because you causes all these issues, right? But the other thing is that you cannot absorb it, right? So like your body has to get rid of it, which means you have to take a shit and you have to excrete the stuff your body cannot absorb because they're anti-nutrients.
Think about cows. I mean, they're purely vegetarian and they have 4 different stomachs. So they got one stomach that goes in and you know, breaks it down somewhat, then they puke it back up, chew it, send it to another stomach. So they have kind of a, you know, a stomach designed for just pure vegetation, whereas I don't necessarily think that we do. But I mean, here's another thing to think of. Like, think about how fucked up your stomach was with eating like healthy herbs and vegetables. Now imagine the normal American diet. Like they're taking some monster shits. You know what I'm saying? Imagine people that are hitting McDonald's 2-3 times a day and then eating some, you know, whatever, boneless chicken wings or something like that every night. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, bro, I'm good. I'm excited for you because I think that like this is just the beginning that like potentially if I want to ask you about your energy level, but potentially like as if you're continuing to enjoy this and maybe it's you're carnivore, you know, 93% of the time, right? Or 98% of the time where like, you know, she's like, oh yeah, let's do something or whatever. And you maybe have whatever the case is, right? Yeah. That's kind of how I see it, right? For myself, like if she wants to cook something like that and that's okay. I'm not gonna, you know, you know, but like sometimes I'll like not have it. She made like these crab ragoons last night. I had one, but then I was like, I know that like because it's so sensitive to me in the sense that like if you took a laboratory, right, they have a special type of paint, so there's not any VOCs, volatile organic compounds, emitting into the air. It's very clean. They have special air filters to remove all these different like bacteria and toxins and pollutants from the air, right? So if you think of like that as like what my gut is normally when she's not here, because she's not here for like a week at a time, then she's here for a week at a time kind of thing. So I just took carnivore when she's not here because it's like a pristine lab. Now, as soon as I eat, didn't really affect me with one crab raccoon, but like if I were to add in, say, a meal of several days ago, she did burgers, right? So I had 4 burgers for dinner because I was like, okay, cool. 4 burgers.
You're fucking
but I had the rolls. The next day, it was like diarrhea. Like it was explosive diarrhea. And it's so like, it's like that lab, but you are working out in the mud. Now you're walking into the house and now the lab is just destroyed because you have all this mud and dirt and bacteria on you that is now in this pristine lab. And like, that's how I feel about my gut. Cause as soon as I have something like those rolls later that night, I was bloated and my stomach hurt a little bit. The next day it was like diarrhea, not good.
Damn.
Have you noticed?
Oh, go ahead.
Have you noticed anything with your energy?
I haven't really noticed anything too different. I mean, I don't feel any more tired or more energy yet. I mean, it's only been 2 weeks, and I mean, I'm not doing full carnivore because I am doing a little bit of dairy and I'm doing the, you know, protein shakes. But overall, I mean, I didn't lose any energy, which I would have, you know, you'd think you would because you're not eating carbs. You know, I'm not getting that sugar. I'm not getting, because you've been told, man, when I used to be in soccer team when I was like 5 or 6 or something, you know, we'd like get together as a team the night before and like they were like, you got to carb up for soccer, you know, you're going to be running around, and then they give you oranges and Sunkist or whatever. So you'd think you'd have a little less energy, but no, I don't feel any less energy.
Do you think that's kind of like a big, because I agree. I think that's almost like a myth out there, or like a big misnomer that people think that they need carbs to have the energy. And I don't think you do. I'm an example of it, right? You're
Yeah.
going through the process where you don't really have a lot of carbs, and you're like, I feel good actually.
Well, think about it. If you're, let's say you're a caveman and you're chilling and you're chilling with a bunch of fruit or whatever, right? And you load up on carbs and that's what you've got to eat. And then you go hiking for 2 days and you kill yourself a tiger or some shit like that. And you're just, you stuff yourself with all that meat. Your body's not just going to be like, oh, well, we don't have sugar. I guess we're just going to be tired and feel like shit. No, it's going to adapt and pull energy from the protein and from the fats to give you the energy you need to do what you do. I think the problem that people get into is when they're doing both at the same time, because you've got your body that's wanting to use the carbs first, and then you've got the fat and the protein. I just don't think it makes sense together. I'm just glad I could still be a little flexible with carnivore because I'm not doing it for like IBS. I don't have like severe autoimmune or anything. I was just sitting there and I was like, you know what? I could eat a bunch of fatty food. I can eat bacon. I can eat a bunch of eggs. So I'm going to, in theory, get more protein in general. And if I can do that and lose weight at the same time, like, why the hell not? Like, that makes sense.
Right. And you get to have steak and like all the other stuff that you like to eat anyway.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm going to get lab work run probably in like 2 weeks, and I'm going to do like the full everything. So I'm interested to see what like my cholesterol is and everything else. So that'll be kind of interesting.
I bet your cholesterol is probably a little higher, but I don't think that the cholesterol is a good measure for like atherosclerosis or whatever.
Yeah.
And I see more and more doctors like saying this kind of thing. I just posted one of them in the last couple of days about this. I think that there's far better measures for like heart disease than cholesterol. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on carnivore, but like it doesn't seem to point in that direction.
I don't even think they fully understand cholesterol yet. They barely understand hormones yet. Like, I don't think they understand cholesterol. I think that a lot of the medical stuff that we're like, that's ingrained in us was not because fucking science was fantastic in the 50s and 60s. It was because of lobbyists that were trying to, get you to eat certain foods. And we've talked about it before. We're like, back in the day, and probably still to this day, we're a huge grain producing country. That's what we make a shit ton of that stuff. So to get the whole country eating it, stimulate the economy, solidify the farmers, it makes sense. And then back in the 80s and stuff, it was cholesterol was the bad one. Don't eat eggs. They're bad for you. What else are people eating for breakfast other than eggs? Cereal, with a bunch of sugar. So I don't know. I'm not too worried about cholesterol either. I don't know.
Yeah, 100%. Let's transition a little bit to this study here. I had somebody actually share this with me because I found this to be kind of interesting. It's 61 men, and they wanted to. Well, my take from this, not necessarily the primary outcomes of what they were looking for, but what's like the optimal dose? Because you know how we talk about testosterone levels. This is how somebody sent me this. We talk about testosterone levels, and you might take 150 milligrams of testosterone a week, and I might take 200 milligrams, and somebody else might take
270
or 270. Yeah, right. Exactly what I'm taking. That's funny you say that. And everybody takes like a different. Not everybody, but a lot of people will have a variability in that. So, what would be kind of like the thresholds to know? Okay, that dose is far too low, or that dose is too high, and that was kind of like my framework that I was going into when I read this. So they took 61 normally functioning men, healthy men, right, and gonadal, right, which is like normal functioning for your gonads, in the range of 18 to 35 years old. So this is perfect for this audience, right, and us. Well, maybe not us. What they did is they gave them a GnRH agonist, so that basically just shuts you down. So they gave them something to shut them down. And then they gave them weekly injections for 20 weeks of testosterone enanthate. Once a week, 25 milligrams, 50 milligrams, 125 milligrams, 300 milligrams, and 600 milligrams. And they noticed that the 25 milligram dose of testosterone, the average across, so they had 61 people, so there's about 12 people per group. They split them into 5 groups here. 25 milligrams, they had an average of 256 total testosterone. 256.
On 25 milligrams.
That's like toilet level, right?
Yeah, that's shitty 20 weeks for those guys.
Yes. Right.
Why couldn't I be in the 600 group?
Exactly.
God damn it.
50. So you would think like 25 milligrams to 50 milligrams, right? You're doubling the dose. You would think that you might get above 250, right? On average, they had 306.
Wow.
306. Also in the toilet, like not a good dose.
So that's what, a 20% increase for a 50% increase in dose?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
100% increase in dose.
Oh, yeah.
For a 20% increase in serum levels.
Wow.
125 milligrams per week, they had an average of 542. So that was very interesting. And that's where L-carnitine came up because, well, I'll get into that in a second. I'll just kind of like a little hook there for people so they continue listening. 300 milligrams, they only were at 1345 for total testosterone.
Actually, I could see that. That would probably be, I feel like that would be close to where that would put me.
And that's not that high.
No. I think that's I think that's like at the high end of normal for like real male humans, not people that live in, where we are. I got crazy LED lights just beaming into my skin right now.
Exactly. I've got them like right in front of it. Yes, exactly. So I think I 100% agree with you. 1345, I don't think is like, I think that's like the kind of what would be a normal range 40, 60, 80 years ago for men, like real men.
Can I guess at the 600 level?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say 2100 at 600.
Close, 2370.
Ooh, spicy.
Which is it's kind of interesting, like that the doses came out like this. But if you were to just look at testosterone levels, that's how I was thinking about this, right? If I'm just looking at testosterone levels, and obviously that's not how you do things in reality, but just for fun, you would just ignore the first two. There's no point in taking 25 milligrams or 50 milligrams of testosterone levels at all. Where 125 is kind of like the lower threshold that puts. So if we're buddies and we're talking, you're not in testosterone, but you're feeling like crap, and you get your testosterone levels checked, and you spent the last 6 months or 12 months doing like actual effort to try to improve your lifestyle, your diet, your workout, your sleep, etc., and you're not able to raise your levels, like the threshold that I would tell people, and I'm not a doctor. Oh, we should play the disclaimer, but we're not doctors. It's just, educational purposes, etc. Don't do what we do with these videos. Okay. But I would say a bare minimum would be above 500. And like 125 milligrams only puts you at 542. And these are relatively healthy dudes. And this is 20 years ago. This is from 2001, right? So like 18 to 35. These are healthy young men to start with. And 125 milligrams only puts them at 540. Like that's not right. So I would consider that as like the lower threshold of it. And we think about like 200 as like the good, that 200 is like normal, or maybe 250, right? But when you look at it, 300 in actuality is probably not that bad for most people. Because in my mind, we would always think of these levels as too high, right? Mm-hmm. If you were saying 300, that's why you were like, actually, what about 270, right? Because where I'm at 270, right, milligrams a week. When we would think about 270, you would think that 270 might actually be too high. Really? But is it really that high if you're just going into the high normal range, right? Like of what a traditional man would be, right? They keep lowering the standard because you get more pussification as time goes on. But I don't know.
Well, it's kind of crazy. A lot of guys in like the TRT Reddit forums, like if you talk about anything like over 200, or even talking about 200, they're like 200 is the high end of TRT. Like you're basically kind of running a mini cycle at that point. And I was like, what? It was, it was also just run a random aside. I mean, I think it was when Joe Rogan was talking to Andrew Huberman, they were talking about TRT. And Andrew Huberman was saying that the NBA players, if they're injured, they can take TRT up to 200 milligrams. And Joe Rogan, who's on TRT, he was like, 200 milligrams. He's like, whoa. He's like, how many like milliliters is that? And Andrew Huberman's like, no, that's not that crazy. But it's weird because Joe Rogan is a smart guy, and you'd think that he would understand the medication that he's taking. But like, maybe it was just like in the moment, and he just kind of heard a number. But I don't know. It's interesting that like even guys that talk about TRT, like anything above 200 is like, that's, you're basically on cycle at that point. I'm like, what?
Correct. And I want to mention something about like gynecomastia in a minute, but there's a couple other things that I've highlighted here. Changes. Okay. IGF-1 were positively correlated with testosterone concentrations, meaning the higher the testosterone levels, the higher the IGF-1 levels. That's interesting, right? Because you don't think about testosterone and IGF. You think about MK677 IGF or HGH or other peptides for IGF. So I found that very interesting here as well. Obviously,
that's another lab I'm interested in seeing what my IGF would be on MK677. Because my IGF was already higher when I originally got TRT. Like
are you going to get that checked?
Yeah. I'm going to. But the lady at Defy, when I did my my consultation with her, this is like 4 or 5 years ago, she was like, "Are you taking any like human growth hormone peptides?" And I was like, "Nope." And I actually got my records, and it actually like they notated like patient states that he is not taking any of them because it was above the reference range by a little bit.
That's interesting. I wonder why that was.
I don't know. I was drinking a lot at that point, so I don't know.
But
if
you were on TRT or no?
Yeah, I was on self-prescribed TRT, 200 a week.
So, but that what might line up with the data here.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Right. Okay. Serum total and free testosterone concentrations decreased from baseline in men receiving 25 and 50 milligrams. So you take those extremely low dose. You come into your doctor. You've got 300 milligrams or 325 milligrams of testosterone as your total testosterone. You're like, hey, doc, bro, I don't have any sex drive. I feel like shit. I just want to take a nap when I get home. Don't feel like doing diddly squat. He's like, let me give you 50 milligrams of testosterone and a day a week. This is injection. This will help you. And what they showed is that it actually decreased their levels of testosterone, which is pretty crazy. LH was decreased throughout all the groups, which is interesting. Also, at higher levels, SHBG was decreased in the 300 and 600 ones, which is interesting. Let's see if there's any other takeaways that I noticed on here. Obviously, muscle mass increased in the higher testosterone groups. Same thing for strength because I measured muscle size as well as strength for power output. Another thing here, fat mass. So this is not fat-free mass. This is like fat tissue measured by underweight weighing, right? So the most accurate way I know of for measuring this increased significantly in men receiving 25 and 50 milligram doses, but didn't change in the other testosterone doses. Right? So if you were taking low dosages, you actually got fatter.
I wonder what the mechanism is there. Well, maybe because you have lower testosterone in general.
I think that's exactly what it is.
Some of the protocols these doctors put these guys on is horrible. 100 milligrams every 2 weeks. Like, what? Like, where did you go to school at again? Shit.
Okay, so this line, I just wanted to make. I read this and I wanted to make sure I understood it correctly. Changes in plasma HDL cholesterol In contrast, were negatively dependent on testosterone and correlated with testosterone. So does that mean, and I'm going to try to understand what they're saying here, changes in HDL cholesterol, and this is in contrast. So I'm going to read you the sentence before so we can understand. Hemoglobin levels decreased significantly in men receiving 50 mg dose. So that means there might be anemic or like going in that direction, but increased in the 600 milligram dose. The changes in hemoglobin were positively correlated with testosterone. So then it goes on to say, changes in HDL cholesterol, in contrast, were negatively dependent on testosterone dose. And then the next 4 words, and correlated with testosterone. So does that mean that doesn't make
this is like a legal paper, like where it's like, reversed and flipped back around. But I think what's really interesting is that it seems like in the guys on 25 and 50 milligrams, it's like they're getting the opposite of TRT. Like their hemoglobin went down, their fat mass went up. It's like the opposite of TRT. Because that's weird. I mean, you'd think that if their body's switching over to kind of exogenous testosterone over 20 weeks, I mean, you'd think it would have the same impact on bone marrow producing blood and stuff like that. But it sounds like these guys are just kind of like running out of testosterone and their bodies are just not happy with that.
You did a good TikTok or Instagram story the other day, and I completely agreed with it. I think I might have even left a comment on it. And you were like, I think the real issue, or something thereabouts, I think the real issue is that low testosterone is higher risk than taking too much testosterone. Right? Like if you have low testosterone, like you're going to be fatter, right? We just looked at the data, right? You're probably going to feel like dog shit. You're not going to have a sex drive. You're not going to have motivation. Your sense of well-being and how you feel as a human being is going to be in the toilet. You have increased risk of cardiovascular disease, increased risk of stroke, increased risk of heart attack, all these fucking negative side effects of things. And you're probably going to be taking medication, which has their own side effects in addition to this, versus take 600 milligrams of testosterone. What like what, you know what I mean? It's like all those risk factors that you just mentioned go down, but your hemoglobin goes up, and maybe your erythropoiesis or whatever it's called increases to such a level that you, depending on how you feel about things, may want to give blood or have phlebotomy. Like I'm obviously expanding upon what you said it out, but I think that thing was really good. Last thing I want to touch on with this is L-carnitine, and then we'll wrap things up here.
Yeah.
So L-carnitine, how that got brought up or thinking about when I was looking at this, because like if you're at say 125 milligrams of testosterone and I'm at 200 milligrams of testosterone, and we have the same levels of testosterone, right? Because sometimes you have people who are hyper responders to things, right? Well, L-carnitine, and I haven't seen the data, but I have something pulled up here where L-carnitine actually can go through and positively have a sensitizing effect on the androgen receptor, which might have same type of effect on testosterone, right? So I'm going to read this. This is a quote from a study, Male Infertility, the Effects of Natural Antioxidants and Phytocompounds on Seminal Oxidative Stress. So seminal would be like your junk area type of stress. And there's a quote from it. L-carnitine improves the number of androgen receptors and their sensitivity to testosterone. Active receptors are necessary to receive and bind to testosterone and for the hormone to carry out all of its normal functions. So I wonder, I think that that at least at the cursory view, at the rudimentary level of where I'm at, I think the L-carnitine could be one of those factors where you take 150, I take 200, and yet we have the same testosterone levels, right? Like you would think that wouldn't be possible, but maybe because you have higher L-carnitine levels, because of dietary choices, because of supplement choices for whatever reasons, you just have higher levels of that, which maybe increases the sensitivity, according to the study, increases the sensitivity of the androgen receptor to testosterone and increases the number of androgen receptors. And I was like, oh, that's fucking super fascinating.
That is pretty interesting. I've never
Can
heard
you-
that before.
Right. I was like, we're about to wrap things up, but for anybody who was paying attention at the beginning, and if you're still here at this time, we appreciate you, like truly do. Leave us a review. We're actually trying to 10x the number of listens to the podcast. So TYL, do you remember just the number off the top of your head of where we currently are for the number of listens?
Well, we moved over to a platform called Anchor, which is owned by Spotify, and basically because it's free and it works really, really well. But so far, since we've moved over, I think it's been 2 or 3 months. We've had 1,900 plays, averaging 96 per episode. Our audience size is 134 over the last 7 days, and we have 121 Spotify followers. And we're growing. It's going up as we go.
And the reason we wanted to mention it in there, because you guys are the ones who actually help us grow. The 1,900 listens that we've had since we switched to this new platform is because of you guys, whoever is listening, right? You, who's hearing my voice. And if you enjoy the content, like if you get value from the content, like leave us a review. We're trying to 10x this by May 24th, which is 90 days from today when this episode was filmed, right? So then I know when this episode was filmed on the 23rd of February, right? So by May 24th, we're trying to get to 19,000 listens. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is with your help. So
send this to 10 friends.
Yeah, share this with somebody else. Everybody has that 1 or 2 or 3 people that they talk about, like drugs, compounds, testosterone, etc. Share this with somebody, and we'll wrap things up, and we'll see you in the next episode. Right? Anything else here?
No,